All right, here we are for the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 spoiler review. I'm not going to go over the plot or anything like that or the cast list. I'm assuming that if you are watching this review, you're familiar with the story, you're familiar with the cast. I'll talk more greater detail about scenes that I didn't want to discuss in a non-spoiler review, but let's just jump into it here on the Beniverse Movie Channel. My name is Ben Friedman. I'm a film critic for Highbrow Magazine. And today, like I said, I just wanted to focus on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 spoilers that I just didn't want to talk about in my non-spoiler review. So here we will go. I wanted to talk about just, I think, the biggest thing that is probably was going into Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 that feels like the biggest spoiler. And it's just this idea that we all probably believed most, if not all, of this cast was going to die. I truly believed before Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 began that we would see the death of characters like Dave Bautista's Drax the Destroyer, that we would see the death of Bradley Cooper as Rocket Raccoon, that we could even see characters like Nebula or Mantis, maybe even Chris Pratt dying in this film. It really felt like that was kind of the direction that Marvel was kind of promoting this film at. And if you've seen the film, which, again, I hope you have, because there are spoiler reviews, none of the Guardians die in this film. And when I was watching it, I actually felt relieved. I was thinking about it because I had just seen Return of the Jedi a few days ago for the 40th anniversary release. And when I found myself thinking at the end of Return of the Jedi, when, they're all dancing with the Ewoks and they're all smiling and you get that final shot at them at the end, I was just thinking how much I love that ending, that is a perfect ending for these character stories. And just that I didn't need to see the Guardians die in this film. There is something to be said about your heroes just not dying on screen and you getting to have the joy and just knowing that these characters have their version of a happy ending. I took joy in that. So the fact that this film kind of subverted expectations by not killing them all, I thought it was a really brilliant choice by James Gunn. For a multitude of reasons, like I said, that one that I just mentioned, but for a few other reasons. There's this multiverse stuff going on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so death doesn't even feel consequential currently in the MCU. So the fact that none of them died, I actually was even happier, because you're just like, by the time you get to Secret Wars, then you're going to have all this speculation. Oh, are they going to the multiverse, like Realm 2407, and they're going to bring back Rocket Raccoon? I was just so not interested in that discourse, or it's just like, oh, they're finally getting a different actor for Star-Lord. I'm just like, I'm glad we can kind of just skip all of that crap. I'm glad that this film had, it's just like, allowed these characters to basically, if they ever need to bring them back, they could, but if they also never brought them back, it'd be perfectly suitable. I was glad that they had that in this installment. And that was one of the things that made me most happy about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, I did mention in my non-spoiler review how dour and sour this film is. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is not a happy film. There is some real depressing stuff in this movie, obviously all centralized on the character of Rocket Raccoon and High Evolutionary. Bradley Cooper is absolutely phenomenal as Rocket Raccoon, and the scenes with the friends that consist of Leela, Teefs, and Floor, they're just absolutely heartbreaking. And when what happens to Leela, we're in a spoiler review, I might as well say, when Leela is killed just out of the blue by High Evolutionary while Rocket is hugging her, it's so painful to watch. It is legitimately tear-racking. I couldn't believe how dark this film got. And just to see those moments and to see Rocket's rage after that and to see all his friends just lying there dead, it was such a kind of nastiness to a film that I just didn't realize was going to have that level of nastiness and cruelty in it. But it wasn't cruel for cruel's sake. It felt like it fit the story, and it didn't feel like we were watching these animals get tortured specifically. We know they're getting tortured, but it didn't feel distasteful like we were watching these animals kind of be dismembered for our own entertainment. It all felt like it was just to greater enhance the story. I'm glad that it didn't feel like torture porn for animals, because that would have really upset me. The other guy that I want to mention real quick, which I actually completely neglected to mention in my non-spoiler review, is Adam Warlock, played by Will Poulter. I was kind of mixed on the use of Adam Warlock in this film. I think he's very good in the film of what is asked of him to achieve in this film. The addition of Adam Warlock doesn't fully feel like it needed to be in this film. It feels like if you completely cut Poulter out of this film, it wouldn't have really changed it, minus like one or two really critical scenes, specifically with Adam Warlock saving Chris Pratt at the end of the film, saving Star-Lord. That was the only scene that was like, oh, if that changed, you would have just had to rewrite that, and it didn't feel like he was otherwise needed. But with that said, I like the addition of Adam Warlock in this film. It worked for me, what he does in this film. I thought the character was just like kind of the right amount of goofiness that they needed to bring to it, because this character is very absurd. He's a really weird character in the comic books that I've never cared for. He's kind of this egotistical freak. He's just very stuck up, it always feels like. So to have Will Poulter play him as kind of like a mama's boy actually really worked for me. Some of the other things that I really liked, I'll just mention the needle drops real quick. There's like 5 or 6 needle drops in this movie that I think are fantastic. Now, I don't know if this is my favorite soundtrack of the 3. It actually might be my least favorite, but there are moments in this soundtrack that are incredible. And here are just a few of them. I thought the Creep acoustic by Radiohead to open the film was such a perfect setting for this film and really just set the emotions and stakes of this film. The fact that Rocket's first word in this film is hurt, as sung by Radiohead, the song Creep, just that worked really well for me. Like I said, I found that opening to just be really compelling and very different from the other Guardians films, which I really appreciated. Some of the other ones that I really enjoyed, the Alice Cooper one of Always Chasing Rainbows, I thought was used to really brilliant effects in this film. The big one that everyone is talking about, there's 2 big ones. I'll talk about the first one that happens first in the movie. It is the No Sleep Till Brooklyn by the Beastie Boys during the fight sequence in the hall. Absolutely incredible. Love this sequence. I thought the direction in this sequence was just incredible. The action, Groot in this scene in particular, right before the hallway sequence, he has that scene where Groot opens up and he has all the guns. I just thought that was just awesome. Just some really cool imagination action that James Gunn was able to incorporate that I just don't think 99% of other directors would have thought to incorporate in this fun of a way. The big one that everyone is talking about is Florence and the Machine. The Dog Days Are Over, where all the characters are just seen dancing at the end. I absolutely love this needle drop. It might be one of my favorite scenes in the MCU as in total. I was just so moved by that. The fact that after everything that we have learned about Rocket, everything that has happened in this film, after all the despair of all the tragedy of all of that, the fact that it can just end with our heroes dancing. And they're taking from Quill. You know, Quill is the dancer in the first movie. He saves the world based on a dance fight. And now you just see that personality just instilled with all the Guardians. And it makes for some really beautiful scenes in this film. Like that scene in particular is just so great. And I love that you get to see the characters of the Guardians grow. There's a scene where Nebula realizes Rocket is alive. And Carrie Gillian's acting, that gasp that just like you can hear her crying, is just so absolutely wonderful in this film. And I just thought everybody brought their A games to their performances in this film. I really did feel like this was the best everyone has been in the Guardians films. I thought Chris Pratt was really good. Zoe Saldana, I will say her best performance is probably in Infinity War, but that's no discredit to her performance in this film. She's very good. And I do like that Nebula and Star-Lord never reunite in this film, that they're not lovers by the end of it. It just kind of allowed Star-Lord's journey to feel more complete. And then when he goes home at the end, when he finally goes back to Earth, it just made that feel all the more sweeter. And I really appreciated those elements of the film. I like that Dave Bautista, by the end, he's Drax the father. It just felt like such a natural progression arc for him. The scene where he's caring for the kids, just knowing what happens to Drax's daughter, just then have that scene as such a beautiful, melancholy scene that is just so heart-wrenchingly beautiful. Same with Bradley Cooper. The scene where he sees all the baby raccoons, where Rocket sees all the baby raccoons, and then, discovers that his namesake raccoon, these are the little animals, and it's kind of him accepting the name raccoon and then also saving these raccoons that will otherwise be killed or tortured. That was just absolutely just gut-wrenching, just absolutely tear works throughout this scene. Like, this film is so joyous in its saving people. And I love that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 goes out of its way to save people. Sometimes with all these other Marvel installments, it feels like the people in the background are secondary or maybe even third to what's going on the screen, and you're only focusing on the heroes and the building and the destruction all around this. Guardians makes a conscious effort to save people. The Guardians are saving citizens. You see them working to protect people. And thus that scene where Rocket, saves all the animals, I just found all the more beautiful. And it's just, again, it's these little touches that James Gunn can add to his screenplay that just make this film feel all the more wonderful. And I truly loved what this film achieves from beginning to end. Some of the other things that I just thought were absolutely just to end the film in the post-credits scene with "Come and Get Your Love" and all the new Guardians like going in a line and fighting. I loved it. Obviously, I loved it. Call back to the first movie. It's another scene that just pulls on the heartstrings. God, this film's disgusting looking at times. Like, the fact that High Evolutionary has his face peeled off and it's like sewn back, it kind of reminded me of Joker in the New 52 series. All that really worked for me. The comedy in this film I thought was very good and never pulled away from the actual emotion of this film, because that's my issue with Thor: Love and Thunder. Thor: Love and Thunder is a very sad story that just the humor, just you kind of like get lost in that emotion, and it just doesn't feel like it fits. This allows the humor to exist, but not in a way that ever comes close to compromising the emotions of this film. And overall, like I said, for all these reasons, that's why I love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This is definitely one of my favorite installments from the MCU ever. This is easily top 10 for me, if not maybe even top 5. There's an argument that I like this film more than the first Guardians, which is one of my 3 favorite MCU installments. I think the issue that this film, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, will have is just so sad to watch. The idea of watching all of Rocket's backstory, seeing Leela die, seeing Tief's floor, all that, seeing that just death, and then to again cut back and just the scene where you think Rocket is dead and then he's like reuniting with Leela, like all that just seems so hard for me to just rewatch over and over again, that I feel like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 won't have this rewatchability factor to it. But in terms of filmmaking and achievement, I do think Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is absolutely a triumph and probably the best film James Gunn has directed from a filmmaking standpoint. The action in this film is all incredible. The cinematography, I thought the special effects, specifically, I should have praised it in my non-spoiler. The special effects in this film are wonderful because Rocket Raccoon's the most special effect in this film, and you just totally believe everything about Rocket Raccoon. They've really nailed the technology for Rocket. And yeah, all of this just works to such wonderful degrees. James Gunn's writing, the fact that this film does parallel James Gunn's Cancellation. Like, let's be honest, that's largely what Rocket's story is. This is the story of somebody who has to kind of prove that they're not the same person that they once were. That's very much the core text of the Guardians, and even like a lot of other of James Gunn's most recent films. Suicide Squad, his version of it is, again, people who are outcast, who have been seen as one way their whole life, now getting a moment to make better and be better. And just all of that, just that's what James Gunn is trying to really hit on this point, that we all have the capability of being better and that we are all deserving of a second chance. I found that message just wholly engripping. I really loved what James Gunn accomplished in this film. Marvel is at a huge loss for losing James Gunn. I'm really excited for the fact that he's heading the DC universe. They really need somebody like James Gunn there. But if you're a Marvel fan, you got to be devastated at the fact that you lost James Gunn to the competitor. It is what it is. But like I said, Gunn is deserving of all the credit. I think Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is well worth your time, and you should check it out. Go see it. Let me know. Is there any spoilers that I'm missing? I know there's a ton of things that I didn't talk about. These were just some of the ones that hit just came up that I really wanted to share my thoughts on. So anyway, my name is Ben Friedman here from the Beniverse Movie Channel. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you all for watching. Take care and bye-bye.